This is kind of like a tangly nightmare. Okay. All right, are we on? Are we good? Hey, everybody. Let's just finish getting set up here. What is up with that? Cool. Let's see. Hovering cat. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Cool. Anyway, alright, so today we're going to be working on a Wacom Tablet. This is an Intuos 4. It's a pretty old model, but it works fine. I've been using it for years and years. So I use two pens. I actually have a couple different... hey Barry, what's up? I have a couple different Wacom tablets. I have the Intuos 4, which is has my preferred control scheme on it. It's got a control wheel. You can customize those functions there, and it has a little LCD screen, so you get to customize what those say. You customize what the buttons do. I have the Cintiq 22, which has the screen in the tablet, but the controls kind of suck on that. It doesn't have the control wheel. It doesn't have the LCD screens. And then I have what are those giant, whatever you call them. So I keep two different styluses because you put two different. You can change the nibs out. So I keep one. This one has a higher friction on it. It's like a sort of a felt type texture. When I'm doing line work, and I want the pen to move a bit slower, then I put the felt tip on that. And then when I'm doing coloring, I use a plastic tip, and it's much faster on the surface. So it's nice to have the two to switch back and forth. You can customize the sensitivity options for each one, so it's a bit different. So anyway, yeah, what we have on the surface here that you can kind of see is Sculptress. It's pretty old. This is a really old thing, but I actually like using it. I like the interface, and it's free, so I can recommend it to people. It's not really hard to use, and it's compatible with tablets and things like that. I'm gonna start out with the plastic nib on there, and then let's see. So this is a fresh install of Wacom. I actually haven't used it on here before. Anyway, so you start out with a sphere here, and sort of I'll just give a quick rundown here. So the wheel on the you can change what it does, but the wheel does. See, as I turn the wheel, it'll zoom in and out. You can change it so that the wheel changes the pen size on the thing and whatnot. Oh, 2:30 is very, very early. All right. Good night. We'll catch you later. We'll try and do a stream a bit earlier, but I usually work pretty late, and then lately I've been getting out of bed kind of late because I usually work like till 2:30 or whatnot. Anyway, So on Sculptress, say if you go size, that'll change that. So it starts out in a symmetry mode. It works a little bit like clay, and this is a lot of fun to do. Sometimes you just sort of zone out and chill as you're working on this. So what, by default, you're on this tool here. This is draw, and that just sort of adds, sort of adds stuff to your clay. I don't know if my volume's too loud. I'm going to lower it a little. Let's go ahead and turn that down just a little bit. Maybe that's better. Is that better? Let's go ahead and turn that down. Maybe there. I don't know. That might be better. Anyway. It's fine? Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks. All right, Barry. We'll catch you later. So you're just sort of adding on to it like that with draw. And you keep adding more and more and more and more. You can turn off symmetry, but for organic stuff, especially when you're just starting your organic object or whatever, it's nice to have the symmetry on, and you can disable symmetry pretty easily. So it's I really like this actually. I like working in Sculptress because it does have these all default stuff. You have this weird sort of gross fleshy sort of look. You got that sort of reflective thing going on. Gangrene, huh? That's sort of fun to look at. Yeah, but it's good to pick something that isn't too distracting for you while you're working. So I kind of like working in this one since it sort of looks more natural like clay. So this thing, I actually am creating a... It's too low now? Alright, thanks. I'm new to streaming, alright? Cut me some slack. Yeah, so this actually is a creature that I'm working on for an upcoming game in Silver Falls. So this will be for Silver Falls Android anyway. And who knows, maybe it'll appear in other games. Let's see here. So I kind of like to define where the organs are going to be on this fella. Well, it's going to give him connection points. That's where his legs are going to start. And his front leg. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and shrink that. Put that there. Strength. There we go. So we have starting points for his legs. That might be a bit small. Okay. So that's looking is the volume fine now? So actually I'm going to go to the grab tool here. I want to grab a fair chunk of it and I want to bring it forward. So let's go ahead and let's stretch this guy. Let's make him a long boy here. There we go. There we go. There's a nice long stretchy boy there. Now he's looking a bit a little bit chunky, so let's go ahead and adjust the tool here. Thanks. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and bring that in a little bit. So, whenever you're making anything, any sort of creature-based thing, it's good to have concept sketches and stuff ahead of time. But I've been thinking about this fella for the past week or two, and he's just been in my mind non-stop. So I can picture it in my head pretty clearly without reference images because I've been sort of obsessing over the design in my head. So normally I would draw some sketches on in my sketchbook, but right now I don't really need to. So this is the grab tool, just grabbing and moving stuff. Yeah, cool. Dark Advent, that's a good question. I would say when I first decided to be a game developer, I was playing a game called Breath of Fire on the Super Nintendo. And that game was absolutely fascinating to me. Let me just save this real quick. I'll fix the name later. I was playing Breath of Fire on the Super Nintendo. It's an RPG, and sort of, other than like Saturday morning cartoons, it was the first game I saw where people were like half animal, half people, and I thought that was the coolest thing. There's a guy named Bo. Ezekiel, hey, what's up? And there's like a half man, half wolf guy, and he shot a bow, and when you're a kid, like, everything's impressionable, so I thought, whoa, the only other person I've seen use a bow is Link, and he's like a normal human. So now there's like a wolf guy that can shoot a bow as well. Then you had a fish guy, you had an ox guy. So that just the amount of imagination and a sense of wonder I got from playing Breath of Fire on the Super Nintendo, it just absolutely hooked me. And I thought, man, this is so cool. And what I got from playing Breath of Fire, the RPG, was that every character had their strengths and weaknesses, and you'd get into battles and you'd see certain characters were not good in certain situations, and then other characters were great in other situations. So it made me sort of understand this concept of people have strengths and people have weaknesses, but if you come together and if you work together, you can achieve something greater. And that's something I got. I must have been 5 or 6 at that point playing Breath of Fire. And I was so captivated by playing that game. I just remember sitting down and thinking, when I grow up, I have to be able to make games like this, and I have to be able to let other gamers feel a sense of excitement and wonder when they're playing a game. And so I often think about that. Whenever I'm making any sort of decision in my games, when I'm coming up with a game, I think, is that the feeling that I'm going to be sharing with people if I make this game? And if I don't think people are going to get it, a sense of excitement from it, then I say I'll scrap that idea. It's probably not very good. So, yeah, I was so grateful that something like a video game could make me so interested in art and excitement that I thought, if I make games with that intention, maybe I could share that with other people. Then other people will also hone their skills as an artist, and they'll want to create and they'll want to share things. So, yeah. Hi, what's up? Yeah. They did have Breath of Fire on the Virtual Console on the Wii U. I know that because I bought it and definitely played it. But it's pretty outdated in terms of the core game design, so it's actually really hard. Sometimes I look at Breath of Fire and I think, like, I'll sometimes go back and play it and I think, this is really, really hard. Like, the game's kind of punishing in the beginning, and a random battle could just kill you. And if you don't, like, stock up on items and stuff. But again, that goes back to the generation of the early 90s and Nintendo hard. Some games were just really hard back then. If you see Breath of Fire 2, that one's, in terms of gameplay, it's a bit more modern. And I think in more modern versions of Breath of Fire 2, they dialed down the random encounters. Because in Breath of Fire 2, oh man, you're just living your life. You're going, about your day, and then you take 2 steps and you get into a random battle. You finish that, you take another 2 steps, you get into a random battle. So I think they may have fixed that in later versions. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Those games are punishing. But again, I think they came from an era where they were really trying to occupy people's time. And they wanted people to spend a lot of time. And I think from a Western standpoint, they wanted people to rent games more and more. Let's make this guy's muscles make sense here. Yeah, so I think a lot of games were sort of designed with that in mind, to sort of use up people's time. Whereas these days, developers are much more time conscious, and they're trying to not waste people's time. So I really appreciate that, especially with the new Pokemon game. I'm a massive Pokemon fan, and what sucks is I've been working so much, I actually haven't had much of a time to play Pokemon. So the other day I took a couple hours and I got to the 3rd gym. So I just finished that on Pokemon. But yeah, Sword and Shield, that I'm noticing a lot of mechanics where they're saving people's time. They try to streamline mechanics. Yeah, you know, they're working against clumsy mechanics. You know, they don't want to waste people's time. Ezekiel, how come you don't like it? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. What do you think could have been better? Oh, why is that? That sucks. That you're disappointed. To be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed as well, and I'm trying to reserve judgment because I'm at a point in my life where I'm literally just working all day long, and if I play any game, my perspective on that game is not painted in a positive light, because usually when I'm playing a game, it's because I'm so exhausted I can't actually work. So I'm trying to reserve judgment on any game that I play right now, because I'm not playing it with a very positive mindset. I'm playing it from an exhausted mindset. Let's go ahead and grab. Where's the grab tool again? Grab. Let's save this. Yep. Alright, looks like we're back. Sorry about that, everyone. Everyone's at home using the internet, so it is putting everyone in the neighborhood, everyone in the world's at home using the internet. So I think it's putting a strain on the infrastructure of the internet in general. So, crap. Alright, see ya. I'll be right back. I'll just check what's going on. I'm going to check on my internet here. Be right back. Let's see. Alright, is it back? Are we back? Yeah, sorry about that. Australia has very, very bad internet. We could have had good internet, but I don't want to talk about it. It's too sad. It gets very sad. Are we good? Are we good? Yeah, I don't want to talk about the Australian internet. It's really sad. It brings a tear to my eye. Anyway, yeah, look, I was trying to play Pokemon last night, just for a couple hours, and what bummed me out was the story, because I've been playing Pokemon my whole life, so I know what to expect, but the game was way too, it was treating me like a child. Like, every single character you interact with in Pokemon Sword and Shield, they're like, "You're a good little boy. I'll pat you on the head. Oh wow, you're so good at everything that you do. You're so great. Wow, I heard about you. You're fantastic. Wow." And I got sick of it pretty quickly. I'm like, I'm a grown-ass man. The developers know I'm a grown-ass man. Stop talking to me like I'm a small child that's so good at everything that I do the first time I try it. It was really sickening. And the only interaction I liked in Pokemon Sword and Shield so far is with Bede, the rival. Because he's like, "Oh yeah, it turns out you're not talented, but, you know, you just worked hard or something." And it's like, cool, I miss having a rival like that in the games, you know, that everyone misses Blue from the original games. But I just got sick of everyone patting me on the head and telling me what a good boy I am. Yeah, you know, I think it would be more interesting if you played the underdog and the world treated you like, you know, you're up and coming and they've never heard of you, and they're like, "Oh, you don't look like much, you know, you can't possibly be good, I've never even heard of you." Then you do the gyms, and then people go, oh wow, I didn't expect that, you know. But it gets really annoying. People just petting you on the head all the time. You know, Dynamax. I'm not sold on Dynamax. Like, I really liked Mega Evolutions. I liked Sun and Moon. You know what what I love in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon? I went to a mate's house to play it. We got it, you know, the morning it came out. And we were like, yeah, cool. This is going to be, you know, the next game. And we started playing it, and we couldn't figure out what was different between the original Sun and Moon. And we're playing it, and we're going like, man, I don't know what's going on here. And other than like the UI elements, I couldn't tell what was different in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon when I first started it. But I really like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And what I love about Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is if you think that you're in for an easy time, that game will kick your butt. You know, you get into those the totem Pokemon, and then they start calling their mates out, and you're gonna get messed up. And I love that. There were battles where I didn't want to lose, so I turned the game off because I was getting my butt kicked in a totem battle, and he keeps calling his mates out, and he'd keep whittling down my team. And there were moments where I turned my game off just to reset it and to change my team, because I thought, nah, I don't want to lose. Yeah, I really enjoyed Sun and Moon. I'll tell you what I'm really disappointed in. With X and Y, we didn't get a... Oops, I don't like that geometry there. With X and Y, we didn't get a Z. And why I'm so disappointed we didn't get a Pokemon Z was I really wanted them to add a new item called a Dragon Ball. And a Dragon Ball would have a higher catch rate for Dragon-type Pokemon. And I thought, if they don't do this, it's going to be a missed opportunity. I'll probably cry for the rest of my life that they didn't do a Pokemon Z that introduced a Dragon Ball. But we didn't get it, and, you know, we did get Sun and Moon, which is... it's better than getting a third game anyway, so... Yeah. Oh, it would have been so cool to get a Z. I have this... You know how, like, when you go to your grandparents' house or whatever, and they have, like, that antique wood... It's called a hutch, you know, and usually it's, like, in country rural homes and whatnot, and they put their fancy dishes and stuff in there. I had a wooden hutch built custom to fit a certain part of my house so I can display my cartridges and my Pokemon cartridges and boxes there. So people come over expecting to see fancy dishes, and they see the Pokemon games, and I'm like, look, they're good games, all right. I like them. I like collecting them. And it's hard to get the cartridges these days because you'll get a lot of counterfeit stuff. Yeah. X is pretty easy, but I love Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon because they're hard. Oh yeah, this is the whole guy here. I want to put more clay here. So I'm sort of modeling it a little bit, and I'm using the bone structure of a feline or a dog type in terms of where the joints would go. And so this is Sculptress. This is a free program. Anyone can use it. You don't need a tablet. I like using the tablet because it's more organic. Also, it's pressure sensitive. And to rig it up, you'll need a program like Blender or Maya. Anything like that will do. But yeah, this program is free. So if you search for Sculptress, again, it's pretty old, but you can. It's still relevant. You can still make really good quality stuff with it, and it's free. So it's fun even to just play around with. And if you did want to start making your own monsters for your own games or your own creatures, it's surprisingly intuitive when you're using it. All right, sorry the internet stuttering, but yeah, the world is using up the internet right now. Yeah, I think every game has its own charm, especially Sapphire and Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald. I think there's a very distinct charm to 3DS games, and I think those games absolutely have it. So I think those are always a pleasure to go back and play a bit here and there. And it's, I'm not gonna lie, I really like using emulation devices because you can play older games in a format that's much higher quality than you can if you use the original hardware. I still like using the original Game Boy Advances, but I have some Android-based emulation devices, and sometimes I like booting up the old Pokemon games and run them on there and just play a little bit of that just to chill for a bit. And it's awesome seeing your older games running in higher quality. Give them some little nubs there. And this is all stuff that you can fix. So let's see. Subdivide. What's really cool about this, I'll put on wireframe so you can see if you're concerned about poly counts and things like that, this is a lot. This is a whole lot of poly counts. Or it's a high poly count. What's great about Sculptress is it has a reduce brush. So I'll go in here. I'll save it first just in case I mess something up. The reduce brush, if the more polygons you have, it's stuttering again. The internet is no good. Okay, we're back, yeah. Oh. All right, we're back. Yeah, sorry, the internet's real bad. Again, I'm in Australia, so that sucks. Forgot my coffee, so I guess I'm going to have cold coffee now. So the subdivide brush, the more triangles you have, or the more polygons you have on your model, the more difficult it is for rendering engines to handle that. If you have too many polygons on there, it slows down your game, it reduces frame rate. So this tool, Reduce Brush, lets you select certain parts, and you can see as I go over that, it's actually reducing the number of polygons that are on there. So you have full control over that, and that way, when you have areas that have too much detail, you can reduce it. And it's stuff that the player wouldn't even notice anyway, and that helps you control your model and ensure that your model will have decent in-game performance. Like I can see here, this area has way too much detail. I would use the Reduce Brush on that. There you go, and that makes it easier for the rendering engine to handle. But I'm still modeling this guy, so you really only want to do that when you're at the very last stages. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with a real wonky looking model. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up that again and undo my changes there. Questions? Yeah, I've played through 3 Down Stars so many times it actually started affecting my sanity. Like all I did was play and test and fix the game, and I've played it a whole lot. So yeah, I've played it a lot. Nice. Well, look, the Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald games are awesome, and I think you can go back and still play. I think Generation 3 and up, I think you can still play them these days and genuinely enjoy it. But when you go to the older generations, you really have to change your mindset a bit, and you have to think differently in terms of, okay, I have to accept that this game was made a long time ago. Cool. I use C#. Dark Advent, do you use a game engine? Do you use Unreal or Unity or anything like that? I use C# myself. I've used C++, JavaScript, Objective-C. I don't even remember everything. But C# is my favorite in that it saves a lot of time in terms of the work that you have to do as a programmer. and it's designed to help you avoid issues, so that it will tell you when something is going to be an issue for the most part, and it will sort of stop you from making easy mistakes that would make your program utterly crash. I don't need to save anyway. And I'm not a fan of JavaScript, because JavaScript, it's open-ended. I know there's a lot of people that like using it, so I'm not saying that those people are wrong. Everyone likes using different programming. That doesn't look right. I gotta put details on this boy right here. A lot of people like using JavaScript, and it has its strengths, but for me, it's not something. It's not set up in a way that I like. JavaScript, for example, imagine you're throwing a wedding, right? And in JavaScript, this is just sort of an example, but JavaScript will sort of allow you to write an invitation for your wedding, but it will allow you to send an invitation that doesn't have an address to send it to. Your wedding invitation doesn't have a date or a location, and it doesn't say who's getting married. So JavaScript will let you do that. C# won't let you do that. C# says if you're going to send out a wedding invitation, then it has to have an address that you're sending it to. It has to say who's getting married. It has to have a time and a place. So that's why I prefer C# in that it's fast. I think it's, once you're into it, it's easy to use, and it's structured in a way to help you avoid issues. I'm going to smoothen this out. This is looking kind of gross right here, but monsters are monsters, right? Okay, Python. I've heard really good things about Python, but I've never actually used it before. What do you think of Python so far? Let's see. Yeah, cool. Go with it. I'm sure I have seen a lot of tutorials on it, on Python, and I've heard really good things about it. It's open source, isn't it? I don't know a lot about it. Let's go ahead and grab this guy. The first game making engine I used was RPG Maker 95 back in the 90s. I used the later versions. I think there was RPG Maker 98, and then there was RPG Maker 2000, and I used a lot of that years and years and years ago. I haven't played the RPG Maker games that are on the consoles, but I would think they're a lot of fun, and I would think they make it easy to sort of share with people. Yeah, thanks. I hope I get to make the HD version of Silver Falls 3 Down Stars as well. Oh, nice. Yeah. Look, especially when you're starting to learn coding and whatnot, you absolutely want to go with an option that's easy to work on. So nice. Yeah, keep going with it. That's good. I'm glad to hear that you're able to connect with that. The worst thing that you can do is get started on learning a particular thing, but pick an option that's hard to learn, because it can be very discouraging. So if you can actually understand the language and how it works, and then build an understanding of the foundation of that thing, then absolutely stick with it. And look, that's why it's so great that there's so many different programming languages, there's so many different game engines, because not everyone's brain works the same way, not everyone learns the same way. Everyone is so different, that it's good to have different things like that, because there are going to be people who disagree with me and say, oh no, C# sucks, JavaScript is better, Python's better. Yeah, that's good. Pick the thing that works for you, because people's brains don't work the same, people don't learn the same. So if something works for you, hey, then awesome, stick with it. I have a funny story about Disgaea. I've never played it, but I love games like Disgaea, which is weird that I've never played it. I'm just adding knuckle joints to this fellow here. But years and years ago, back in grade school, I would go over to friends' houses and we'd play video games and whatnot. And I remember seeing my friend's kid brother, and he was probably 5 or 6 years younger than us, and he was playing Disgaea, and he was playing it on the PS2, and I thought, oh man, yeah, that game looks really cool. I'd like to play that. And he was showing me the game, and he was doing damage to enemies. Sorry, I bumped my mic. He was doing damage to enemies, and there was like a K symbol popping up indicating that he was doing like thousands of damage. He's like, oh, I just did 24K, and I'm thinking, holy crap, I've never seen a game that does that. And he showed me a save file, and there was 240 hours on that. And at that point, like, the most hours I had ever put in was probably Final Fantasy VII, and I'd probably put in like 50 or 60 hours onto it. So seeing a save file for 240 hours kind of weirded me out a little bit, and I thought that might be too much for me to spend on one game, so I think I might give that a pass. And that sort of like weirded me out a little bit, so I actually never played Disgaea because I saw my friend's save file was too much. Would you recommend? I mean, there's so many. If I were to play a Disgaea, which would you recommend I check out first? Yeah, I thought it was funny seeing a K symbol and just doing like ridiculous amounts of damage, but that's the whole point of an RPG, right? Is to become so powerful, and you've earned it because you've put in the time and effort to become that powerful. You know what? I don't like that. I'm gonna go back there. I'm just doing his joints here. So again, I'll sculpt that in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding grooves that sort of indicate tendons. So we have the crease tool here. Let me save this guy. So of course I'm going to iron that out and fix it. That looks, that doesn't look quite right. What I'm going to start doing is, let's see. Not a fan of that. Let's make that a bit bigger. We'll reduce the strength. Not quite right. Not quite right. That's probably a little better, but again, you can always keep working on this more and more. Oops, what happened there? And you can use this to help define muscles and tendons, and of course I'll iron this out and work on it a bit more. What's going on? The weird thing about a tablet is if it's skewed a little bit, slanted a little bit, then it starts going, it doesn't line up with your movements of where you're drawing there. There we go. Anyway, and something like this, I'll have to spend a few days really fine-tuning it, doing the texture maps, rigging it up, and animating it. But I did sort of mention on social media the other day that I want to fast-track the Android game. And the Android game is going to be, you're driving around the desert at night. You're playing as Romanic Rodriguez, and he's delivering chunky chicken to different residences that live sort of out in the desert. And it's quite story heavy, but it's also action heavy as well. So it has a story mode and then an action mode. And the game's going to be free, and it'll, I really want to add to the story, but it's in a way that it's its own standalone experience, and I think it's fun for people to sort of see different characters in different environments still in Silver Falls. Ooh, that's looking kind of cool. I'm kind of liking that, actually. All right. Oh, let me read what's going on here. I've never really done a self-evaluation on myself in terms of game design. I was a writer before I was a game developer, so I think writing is my strongest part of game development, and I think coming up with interesting and creative ideas in terms of giving players something to do and giving them a creative way to achieve their objectives, I would say that's probably my strength. but everyone has strengths and everyone has weaknesses, and that there are a lot of things in game development that I haven't had time to learn, and I know that it would be a waste of time for me to invest too much of my time learning a particular thing when I know that there are team members that in the future I could hire. That's not looking good. Oh boy, I gotta change this. I gotta do something. Nobody look. This is not that's not what I wanted. I don't know if it's getting... Look, we just got to change this shape because it's not good right now. All right. You know what'll fix it? Let's put something there. All right, there. That's looking a bit better now. There we go. But there are a lot of things that I know that I'm not good at with game development, and that's when I get friends that I would love to have as team members. I'll get them to help me with particular parts, and I can't afford to hire people full-time at the moment. Things like shader programming are things that I'm not good at. And in terms of UV mapping, I'm not great at it. There are artists that are way, way better than me. I can handle the basics of UV mapping, but when it comes to generating normal maps and metallics for your physically based rendering for your really realistic stuff, my skills in that are quite basic, and I have invested time, but I'm aware that it is a waste of my time to spend too much effort with that when I know that in the future I'll be able to hire artists to work on that, and I should work on the things that I'm good at that I need in order to produce a game. So save this guy. I keep doing that. I think I can just Control S, but because the program doesn't say anything when I Control S, I don't trust it. So this guy, I want him to have a bit more of a neck. So let's go ahead and grab this. And again, we'll let's see here. I want him to have I want him to be a lanky boy. Let's go ahead and grab. Oh no, it's sort of messing up the shape of the head. I can fix it. See, I want this guy to look kind of sleek, but I mean, you guys will see the finished product, and you'll get to play it probably within a week. I want to have the Android game out, and then you'll see what this thing is supposed to be. But he's supposed to be pretty sleek. So right now the head is much too big. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Thanks. So for Silver Falls, alright, so I love cryptozoology stuff. When it's late at night, I'm gonna open this. I hope it doesn't make an annoying noise on the mic. Sponsored by Pepsi. Everyone, please drink Pepsi. So when I'm making monsters, I gotta be careful with what I say because I don't want to spoil the design behind the monsters, because there's a very specific thought process and logic behind the monsters in Silver Falls, and that's something that I want people to explore over a number of games that I've planned out. So I don't want to just say, oh, this is why I came up with the monsters, but I love cryptozoology videos. So late at night I'll watch stuff, and I love when people talk about Bigfoot, Mothman, Wendigo. I love all of that stuff. It's fun to listen to. I don't know if I 100% believe in all that stuff, but I just love the scary stories. So I try to incorporate some ideas of cryptozoology stuff in terms of people talk about it, but maybe they weren't actually seeing the Wendigo. Maybe they were actually seeing this creature in Silver Falls. So that's part of the logic of my creature designs, but the monsters in Silver Falls exist, and I'm sure if you've played 3 Down Stars, you sort of get it. The monsters exist partly because of the alien activity that's going in town, and I don't want to get too much into it because I want you guys to have fun exploring that over the upcoming games. But I have to design my monsters in a way where I think it makes sense because they do have to be related to the alien activity. And I had an idea for this guy, so I gotta try and do that still. So, and you also have to keep in mind if you want to articulate. So I want this guy to have a mouth that he can move. So I'm going ahead and slap some meat on this fellow right here. You sort of try and you build up his jaw here. I want him to have pronounced jaws. Let's put some meat on there like that. Let's build that up. So I'm going to have to shape this guy. This is looking... There we go. So you can see starting to develop a mouth here. And of course you work on it and you develop it a bit. But he looks like a real happy, smiley boy right now. There we go. Oh no, he's turning out cute. What have I done? I just realized I probably look like I'm doing product placement because I've been holding this can for like a minute, but I don't want to make an annoying noise into the microphone, so I'm gonna remove the mic for a second. That's so refreshing. You guys should go out and get a can of Pepsi right now. This guy's such a happy boy. Look at him. Yeah, look, you know, sometimes when you're having a pizza, you just got to have like a Coca-Cola or something. They do have names. There are names for the monsters in the game, and while the characters don't... yeah, exactly. I love that the Resident Evil monsters do have names, and you don't always know what they are. And there are names for the creatures. We have the Compendium app on the Android. This guy's just looking happier and happier no matter what I do. The Compendium app actually does reveal the names of the creatures. Oh no, he's looking happier. But there are names for the creatures, yeah. What a happy boy. Oh no. He's looking so happy. Oh no, there's nothing I can do to make him not a happy boy. Alright, so I'm making sockets for his eyes here, and I'd like to put okay, let's grab that and bring it in. There we go. I gotta do something with this ridge line because he looks... Oh! Look at his stupid face. I'm so sorry. I'm losing it. This guy's so happy. Oh no! Oh no! What have I done? I don't know. Look, I gotta save a backup. I'm gonna save a backup of this guy. I'm sorry, I just lost my cool here. No, this is a happy boy. There we go. I'll go back. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. Don't worry. It's tough making Android apps because you have to take into account that there's so many different kinds of hardware. It's not just like the processing power of Android phones. It's the physical hardware. Sometimes games, the hardware just won't be compatible with Unity's stuff. So it's tough making Android stuff. But the Compendium app it's not really a game. It doesn't require a high frame rate or anything. It's more an app that lets you collect action figures. I need to turn down the strength on that. So I'm going to start defining his neck here. And I'm going to pretend that he's not a happy boy. So what I want to do is give him a collarbone so I have something to work with in terms of bone structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him... Let's leave that face there for now. We don't have to change how happy he is. So we're going to give him a ridge line or a spine here. So we have something to work with. And so for many years I studied anatomy with drawing realistic humans and things like that. So I have a fairly reasonable understanding of bone structures and anatomy. So if you do want to do like creature design and you have to take into account the bones and things, grab some books or wow, I sound like someone's uncle. Go online and look at stuff to study anatomy for bone structures and things like that. If you understand the basics of like bears, dogs, cats, and humans, if you sort of see how their bones are connected, it gives you a stronger understanding of how you can create bone structures and in your head just sort of imagine them making sense. I might do a live stream as I'm rigging this guy up as well, because I know rigging is frustrating and difficult for a lot of people, especially if they haven't been doing it for a long time. And for me personally, rigging is one of my least favorite things to do. I'm not... Look at this guy. Yeah, rigging is not my favorite thing to do, but I'll do a live stream for that, and we can look at rigging it up. So I sort of like to outline that he's going to have a sort of a scapula there, and then I'll shape that out later on. But that just, I'm putting that there to let me know that there's supposed to be a bone structure, so I can sort of indent around it to make him look bonier. So I'm going to imagine that his bones are sort of connecting in some way here, a socket. I'll further define that. Again, this is sort of like just a rough sketch. I'm just sort of sketching potentially where the bones would go, so I know what the shape of the creature would be. There's me trying to not burp into the microphone and be gross. Alright. Yeah, he does... I gotta stop looking at this guy's stupid face. Oh no, I've ruined it. I'm sorry. Alright. So this creature that I'm designing is supposed to be a pretty fast running thing. So I mean, while you guys are here, I don't want to spoil anything, but when I make creatures for new Silver Falls games, and they feature, the story sort of focuses on a new character on these creatures. Okay, cool. We'll see in a bit. There is potential for me to take the new creatures that I create and then add them back into Frontier Fighters, so you have new enemies. I can create new missions that have new enemies, and then you have more stuff to do in Frontier Fighters. So that was something that I did keep in mind during development. Okay. Let's do something like that, just so I know what's going on here. Let's do something. And then I'll indent that. So what I'm going to do now is take my crease tool. Yeah, there we go. Oh no. So I guess we've sort of have an inside joke now, because at some point this will be an enemy in the game, and I don't know if any of us will be able to look at it in the game and not think of this guy right here. Oops. I gotta stop looking at it. So I'm sorry for anyone that's on iPhone, because I did plan, I wanted to put the Campfire Stories, the Compendium app, I wanted to put that on the iPhone and the iPad, but the problem is my Apple computer is a couple years old, and Apple will not let you submit apps unless you're using like a fairly new hardware, because they won't let you install the software unless you have the new hardware. So unfortunately, I can't publish iPhone apps until I buy a new Mac, and those are a bit costly, so I can't afford to publish, because I had everything set up. I was trying to submit the Apple version of the apps, and they said, "Oh, hey, could you please spend a couple $1,000s on a new computer?" And at this point, I can't. So hopefully in the future, I'll be able to submit those Apple apps. Yeah, we got to get a bony butt on this boy. Cats have like a hole there. There we go. He's like a cat. There we go. You want to define his musculature a little bit more. I really like this crease tool. Because the crease tool, it lets you sort of create a sense of like tendons, and you can get like a real sinewy look. And yeah, this tool is free. Give it a try if you want. It's a lot of fun if you're into this sort of thing. It is really fun. So it's shaping up so far. Again, I don't trust Control S because the program doesn't say anything. Yeah, those are called Seizures. The creature that's in the steel mill. Oh, I'm glad you like it. They're meant to I don't want to change his face now. For now, I'll change it later. I'll do it later. So in the game, there's like I added it in the tutorial room. They sort of explain it a little bit, but there's sort of an armor mechanic in terms of being able to flinch the enemies. So you have weapons. They have a lot of hidden values. There's a lot of dynamics to the weapons in Silver Falls, actually. And one of the dynamics is a weapon's ability to break armor. And armor is sort of like, say this is a fast enemy, right? So his armor would be pretty low. His armor level would probably be 4, okay? And let's say you have the combat knife, and the combat knife's armor breaking level is 1, which means that the first time I hit this guy, he's not going to flinch at all. So the combat knife is not a good weapon for him. I would have to hit him 4 times or 5 times with the combat knife in order to get him to flinch, which means if he's running at me, the combat knife is not going to slow him down, and I'll probably get hit. If you have a weapon like, let's say, the lumber axe, it's a big slow thing, that probably has an armor breaking level of 6 or 7. So if this guy's armor level is 4, then every time he gets hit with a lumber axe, he will flinch. So there's a lot in 3 Down Stars that's not explained in the game itself, and it's something that I hope people would sort of figure out just by playing the game, and they'll sort of naturally, over experimenting with different weapons, they'll sort of figure out, oh, okay, this weapon doesn't work that good on that enemy. So there are certain enemies that they have a low armor level, so it's a good idea to use combat knives and things on them. And I'm talking about that because the seizure enemy that you're talking about, the one in the steel mill, his armor level is really high, which means it's very hard to flinch him, and that's why he's a difficult enemy to deal with, because it's very very difficult to flinch him, and he needs a pretty powerful weapon. So that's it's some nights when I'm up late and I'm testing, I jump. Like the enemy in the steel mill, he has made me jump a couple times during testing, because I'll forget that I put a spawn point somewhere for an enemy. I'll be testing the game, and the area is pitch black, and I'll jump out, and it's like, oh, And when it's late at night, you're naturally scared of stuff anyway. So, excuse me, I'm trying to not burp into the mic. Yeah, I'm in Diamond Island. I'd like to put a number of different enemies in there, and you can see them in high resolution and whatnot. So. Now in Diamond Island, a lot of that is going to be building stuff. So you'll be creating weapons, and you'll be building structures. So you can build walls, floors. You can build any kind of house you can imagine, because you'll be able to build your own anything, really. And that's sort of one way to deal with the enemies, like the seizure that comes from the steel mill, is you can avoid them by sort of building barricades and walls, and that you don't have to encounter them. It's not like Fortnite, like super fast. It's, but it plays into the story as well. It's not just supposed to be like some sort of Minecraft copycat. because the mechanics are very different behind it. It's more about wilderness survival than anything else. So, yeah, we're just sort of defining this guy's neck here. I love his face so much. I really don't want to change it, even though I have to. It's a real bummer. Oh, cool. I have a problem with building games in that I would probably play them too much. I did the wrong tool there. I've put a ban on myself for games like The Sims. I'm absolutely not allowed to play games like Minecraft or anything like that where you build stuff, because I would spend forever playing it. And that's also why I don't play Animal Crossing, because that's absolutely like dangerous territory for me. I'd probably never stop playing it. I'm a huge fan of Harvest Moon as well. So Harvest Moon got weird over the years. Have you ever played a Harvest Moon type game? You know what would make this boy look so cute? Man, I love games where you could build stuff and catch stuff. What would make this boy look so cute is like a little nub of a tail. Just like a cute little... Alright, we're doing it. We're going to shape that out first. Alrighty. And then we'll drop one of these right here. Like this. Oh no! It's cute! Oh no! It's too cute. But it logically has to sort of make sense with the spine, so let's sort of make it seem logical like that. There we go. That's too big. There we go. Oh no, it's adorable. Oh no. Alright. Look at his stupid face. Yeah. I haven't played a modern... Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit like a rabbit. Yeah. I haven't played a modern Harvest Moon, but I'd played the older ones, and it's so addicting, you know. You get into the sort of the flow of growing your crops. You earn a little bit of money, and then you upgrade your buildings so you can raise animals to earn more money. And then you sort of build relationships with the people in town. And that's sort of my inspiration. I mean, I don't talk about Golden Ridge Ranch. I mean, I sort of brought it up earlier than I should have, but it was just such a fun idea that I enjoyed thinking about. And Golden Ridge Ranch takes place, you know, in a ranch that's in Silver Falls. And if you're playing Frontier Fighters, you might actually find some characters talking about Golden Ridge Ranch a little bit. I'm not sure if they mention it in the story just off the top of my head, but I know it in Frontier Fighters they do. I need to make this guy's ribcage make more sense. In Frontier Fighters they do mention Golden Ridge Ranch. And that would be one where you are an out-of-towner and you've sort of got this property for pretty cheap, and you're trying to make a profit by running this ranch, and you actually get to befriend the characters that are in Silver Falls. You get to befriend them, and you sort of you figure out which characters in Silver Falls are good at certain things, and you get them to help you on your ranch. You know, you'll need to find a character that's good at, you know, making sheds or buildings, and then you need to hire them to do things for you on the ranch. But also there's, you know, the main draw of Silver Falls is there's this alien activity, so there will be a degree of alien activity while you try to make this ranch profitable. So let's save this guy. Where's our turn that off. Look at his face. Oh, he's adorable. Okay, let's try and... What's this? That's kind of a cool one. Hey, that looks like a cool sculpture. There's a fleshy looking one that's kind of, I don't know, gangrene. That's kind of cool lighting, isn't it? He's so happy. That one's kind of fun anyway. Yes, yeah, this is an enemy for a night drive reaching out into darkness. And again, there's no reason why he couldn't appear in other games in the series. There's no reason why I wouldn't be able to take this enemy and then create new frontier fighter missions in the future in an upcoming game. Like I would love to do, if we can get more sales on the 3DS game, I would love to be able to do free DLC where it's another 20 missions for frontier fighters, and then I'll add new enemies, and this would be one of the enemies that I would add. And he would, again, this enemy's all about speed, so he'd be very difficult to fight with. If you're accustomed to fighting the wolves in 3 Down Stars, you'll know that they circle around you, and it makes it difficult. Now imagine an enemy that's like 3 or 4 times as fast, because this is an enemy in a night drive reaching out into darkness. You're pretty much driving, and you're dealing with these enemies. So this enemy is faster than a car. So imagine trying to fight an enemy like that in 3 Down Stars, and that's going to be this guy. And that's why I would like to add new enemies into Frontier Fighters, because you add variety to what the player gets to do, and it means that now you have to create a new loadout. You might even have one specific character, and you design their skills and weapons just to deal with enemies like this. So I think that'd be cool anyway. Yeah, I would love plushies. People seem to love the guy that comes out of the steel mill, so if we could get like a pop vinyl or a plushie for that thing, I think people would hug it, I guess. Oh, hey, cool. Thanks for downloading the demo. I hope you enjoy it. The demo is like, it's 2 years older than the actual game, so it's, in terms of polish, it's quite rougher than the full game. And the demo doesn't have things like camera sensitivity control and invert the camera axis in terms of controlling it, whereas the actual game does have the ability to control the camera axis and things like that. I'm kind of happy with this guy here. I'm gonna work on his sort of tendon expression a bit more. And when you're sculpting like this, you know, you generally so I want to sort of build up the tendons that show that his jaw has a strong connection to his bones here. So what I'm going to do is sort of I'm going to just emphasize the creases, and you don't have to worry about the detail. Like I showed you the subdivide tool before to reduce the polygons. You don't have to worry about that so much at this stage of the game. You just want to make it as adorable as possible, and then you can reduce the poly count detail later. Here we go. And so so I studied anatomy and anthropology, and you'll learn about our bones have things called tuberosities, and tuberosities are where your muscles connect to the bones. And so I usually try to think of that whenever I'm designing monsters, because with the monsters, they're not necessarily based on real animals, so I can't just copy an animal and things like that. So I try to imagine where the bones would have their tuberosities, where the muscles and joints and tendons would connect, and then I try to build detail around that. Here we go. I'm so sorry if we have to change our happy boy, but it's just the way it is. And so I want more tendons connecting, and a sense of a throat down here as well. So let's go ahead and crease this a bit. Again, I'm going to reduce the strength on that. I just want to, overall, I want this enemy to look sinewy and hungry. And unfortunately, he can't remain a happy boy, which is a bummer. But again, this is going to be a very fast enemy, capable of keeping up with a vehicle. So you see sometimes the crease tool creates these lines, and they're not necessarily organic, depending on what you're creating. You know, you can use these sort of sculpting apps for anything, but I don't think that looks very organic. So there's a smooth tool here. So more than an hour after, I've sort of introduced this smooth tool. So again, if you have parts where you create ridges and they end up not looking natural, hand tool here. Oh, no, Alt. There we go. Hold Alt. So say like that doesn't look very natural, so I run the smooth tool over it, and there you go. So you see, if I do something and it ends up not looking very natural, I'm not worried about it, because I know that there's enough tools here to get pretty much what you need in terms of visual expression. Like these parts, I knew early on that didn't look quite right, so what I'm going to do is just lightly run the smooth tool over it, and now it looks more organic. And what I'm doing right now with the stylus here, let's see. Yeah, so you see the tools here, strength pressure. So I'm barely gently like brushing the stylus along the surface. It's so light, the amount of pressure that I'm applying. So you can either push really hard and then it will have a major effect on your model, or you can lightly brush the stylus. And I'm barely grazing the surface, because I don't want to affect my my geometry too much. So what I'm doing, see if I can show you here on the camera. See, I don't want to influence that too much. So you can see I'm barely going to graze it like this. I'm barely grazing it. And it's very lightly affecting the model, because you don't want to mess up your geometry so much to where you have to redo work. There you go. See? I'll just quickly show what happens. So I'm going to push really hard now. So I'll make it a bit bigger, and I'll push pretty hard, and you'll see what happens. So I'm pushing as hard as I can, and now I've lost all my detail. Luckily, we have the undo function. So that's why I really... Oh no, was I saving over Happy Boy? Oh, that's fine. We have... Okay, that's fine. Yeah. That's why I really recommend these. There's all sorts of different tablets. You don't have to get Wacom. If you're not sure whether or not you'll like a tablet, whether or not you'll like using a tablet, there are lower-priced entry-level models, and there's nothing wrong with getting entry-level stuff. I recommend getting an entry-level tablet to see if you like it and to see if it's something that you want to move forward with. Because I started with entry-level tablets just to see. I didn't know if I was going to be good at using a tablet or not. So I started with entry-level tablets, and then I've moved on after learning and figuring out. So if this is something you want to try, absolutely, I recommend getting a tablet. Sculptress is free again, and I love the pressure sensitivity in terms of sculpting. It feels so organic and natural, and it's actually a lot of fun to make models this way. But again, there's a lot of other programs. I'm sure plenty of other people will say, oh, you can sculpt in Blender and all of that, and there's plenty of great options, you know, so that's pretty awesome. But I really like Sculptress. It's pretty old. The developer of this program, they don't update it anymore, because they do other software that's more fully featured and newer, that's more business centric. But I really love the simplicity and speed of Sculptress, so I still use it. And it works great. It's compatible with everything. You can export FBX files or what have you. So then you can take this and stick it into Blender or whatever program. You can rig it up, texture it and whatnot. Let's see what's up in the chat. Yeah, yes. So in A Night Drive, that is Romanic Rodriguez. He is the one who's wearing the chunky chicken shirt. He's got the chunky chicken hat, and he's by the car. He's the one holding the TechPad tablet. Oh, in case anyone didn't notice, in 3 Down Stars, the description for the chunky meals. There's a couple of chunky meals that you can get throughout the game, and they're mostly like a full health restore sort of thing. But the description says something like, "It restores all your health, but at what sick cost?" When you eat a chunky meal in 3 Down Stars, it actually reduces your speed noticeably. And it's kind of subtle at first. I'm going to give the guy some tendons now for his leg muscles. So we're going to build this up here. So if you eat 2 chunky meals in a row, your character is going to be moving in slow motion. They're going to be crazy slow. So the game hints at it with the description. And I was hoping people would sort of just eat chunky meals during a boss fight and just keep loading down on chunky meals and then start wondering, why is my character moving so slow? What's the big deal here? So there you go. There's your answer. Don't eat too many chunky meals. Maybe just eat the one. Eat healthy. It's good for you. Exercise. It lasts about 4 minutes, I think, when you eat a chunky meal. So have fun with that. Yep. I really enjoy doing the like the muscles and tendons and stuff. It looks really cool. And in future games, the character that's the monster from the steel mill, you'll get to see a higher quality version of that character. You'll get to see his sort of tendons and his muscles rippling under more detail with a higher quality texture and whatnot. So his muscles are turning out here. Let's build that up just a little bit. Because this guy's so fast, we want to put a lot of expression in terms of his muscles. So I'll spend probably a bit of extra time putting creases and muscle definition in here. There we go. I'm kind of liking this happy boy, and I can stay focused and concentrated as long as I don't look at his face. That's kind of, what do you guys think of that? There we go. Let's get some tendon expression in there. Look at that guy. So this front thing it's quite, wibbly wobbly. Of course, you want to smoothen that stuff out and make it look like solid tendons. He's just a mash of potatoes right now. But you can sort of see these back legs are starting to take shape. I guess this guy is happy boy. Oh, let me see what's going on in the chat. Luckily, Australia responded to the virus pretty quickly. So early on they put restrictions on, and luckily our population is quite spread out for the most part. So, we have some deaths and we have people getting infected, but it's being managed here. So I'm pretty happy to hear that. I'm bummed out that our society as a whole is negatively affected, and that it's difficult for people to get supplies. People are feeling isolated. That's terrible, but at least the world overall is trying to deal with it. So I really hope we all pull through the coronavirus thing soon, because it sucks. It really sucks. Hello, Nanashi. Hello. How's it going? Let's see here. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, this is a monster that I'm making for... we have an Android game that's coming out, so he'll be starring in that. He'll be the main enemy in that. But for the 3DS game, if we get the opportunity to do an update and add more Frontier Fighter missions, I might add him in. and he'll be a new enemy added to 3 down stars, and you'll be able to fight him. And again, he'd be a very different enemy than the other enemies because he's going to run quite fast. Yeah, the chunky meal is meant to and I'd kind of forgot about it. I was doing a test run a couple weeks ago, and I played through the whole game. I got to the final boss fight, and I sort of forgot that the chunky meal slows you down, so I didn't take any other healing items. I took like 4 chunky meals with me into the final boss fight, and I'm doing the thing, I'm doing the dodging, and I get hit a couple times, and I eat the chunky meal, and I'm moving in slow motion, and I just started laughing, and I forgot about it, and I remembered, oh no, I should have taken like steaks or, you know, Miracle Cream. Right, so this part here, I'll go ahead and fix this part up. So when I'm sculpting, I try to think what the actual bone structure of the creature is. This doesn't make any sense, so now I'm going to try and imagine that what the socket down here looks like. So I'm going to shrink that. I'm going to build up this socket a little bit, but the sockets they're inside, right? But what I'm going to try and do is imagine that it is connected to a rib like that. Actually, let's go ahead and increase that a bit. And he's got a collarbone here, so if we can sort of try to imagine how the collarbone connects. Oh no! Like that. And what you want to do is sort of have a point of definition where it seems that limb would organically connect to the joint. So I'm imagining the joint is somewhere in the middle, and it's kind of a gobbledy mess in there. So I'm going to start creasing like this. Thanks. Oh, nice. Yeah, once an hour you'll get tokens in the Compendium app, and then you'll be able to get more figures. Bull Brandish ended up... this will be some behind-the-scenes information, I guess, because I don't really talk about it a lot. But Bull Brandish actually started... he wasn't a character that I created with the intention of putting him in the game and have him be a playable character. I originally... Actually, a lot of characters started their life... you know when you're playing Frontier Fighters and it's loading the room and whatnot, it shows you some random information about things. Actually, a lot of characters started their life because I made one message that showed on the loading screen. And it would be like, oh, this one character lives in Silver Falls, and this is what they do. And they're kind of known for this thing. Bull Brandish is one of the characters that, again, I didn't even originally design him with the intention of being a character. I just sort of mentioned him in the loading screen. I made a loading screen message, and I can't even remember what the message was fully, but it was so intriguing what I had written about him that I thought, oh, this should be a whole dude. And I wrote those messages pretty early on in development. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll write another loading screen message about Bull Brandish. That would be interesting. And after a couple days, I was looking at it and I was thinking, this guy could be really interesting. You know, I can't just let him be a loading screen message. So I expanded his role, but this was pretty early on in development, and that's how I started building him more and more, because it was literally one line of dialogue, and it ended up, to me, it sounded really interesting. And there are a couple characters that actually started life that way as well. So, you know, my tip to fellow writers, just write stuff, and then sometimes you'll say something that surprises even yourself, and you'll think, oh yeah, that'd be a cool idea or a cool character. I'll expand on that. All right, so I kind of have the joint here. I'm going to try and make, in terms of tendons now, I want this to make sense. So let's go like that. I'm sort of imagining connecting the points down there. There we go. So I'm trying to connect everything down to this knuckle here. Alright, let's put a little bit like that. And there are things that you'll want to simplify in terms of the model itself, and you'll want the detail to be in normal mapping and things like that. And normal mapping is much easier on the processor. It's easier to manage memory-wise and whatnot. But let's give it a little bit of detail like that. So we're all right. We're sort of getting there. I'm kind of liking this. I'm liking this guy here. Give some sort of bone definition. Let's define the knuckle a little bit here. Yes, Nanashi, the Android game will be free. So any games that we make for Android and iPhone, I want them to be free. And if it's a game on the 3DS or on the Android or iOS, I'm designing it with the intention of those Android and iOS games will unlock free content in the main games. So the Android game will be free. There will never be any sort of pay to unlock content. And sort of I want to make the Android and the iPhone games as my way to say thank you to everyone, because it's I really appreciate when people play our games, and when they especially, you know, you guys are spending money on something that I made, and I think that's so exciting. And so I just want to show you that I'm grateful for that. So I want to make some free games, and it'll add more story, it'll add more characters, not just to it being a game itself, but every future game in the franchise will have some content unlocked if you have the Android or iPhone games. Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited that sometimes I have an idea for the characters. So when I'm designing characters, I think of the kind of story they're going to tell, and the kind of life that they live, and the struggles that they face with. And those are the first things that I think of when I'm designing a character. Then I consider, well, the life that they live, their struggles, the things they want to accomplish, how does that affect their personality? How does that build their personality? So I think about that character's personality, and then I design their clothes based on their personality and their lifestyle. Since at that point I would have their personality and lifestyle fleshed out. And when I design the characters, I design every character with a very particular color scheme. Let me save here. I would like to open my project folder, but I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to try and do this very carefully here. All right, let me see if I can do this without accidentally opening any spoilers. So with Bull Brandish, he was designed with a particular color scheme that I think subtly, like, I don't put it in your face. Like, it's not like the Power Rangers where every character always wears bright red or bright yellow. But I want to do it in such a way that you could identify a character because of, you know, vaguely you identify them because of the colors they're wearing. So Bull Brandish always has a sort of a light blue and a brown look to him in terms of his clothes. Let me find his other render here. I'm just looking for the render. Here's his alternate. This is his alternate outfit. So this is in Frontier Fighters. This is his alternate outfit you can unlock. You find it in one of the Frontier Fighter missions. And again, he's got a similar color scheme, except now the shoes are brown, the pants are light blue, and he's got the axes and sort of brown-red overalls and the arm guards. And then his standard outfit is there. So you see he has a pretty specific color scheme in terms of characters. And when I do future alternate outfits, you know, I'm not strictly going to say, oh, he only can wear these colors. I can mix up the colors, but in general, his core look in the games has a particular color. Let's see if I have that. Looking for a file here. Here we go. And this is his look in Undertaker. So you can see this is how Bull looked back in the 70s, but you can see he's preserved his color scheme so subtly. You know, if you sort of put him in a lineup of other characters just by the color, I want people to be able to identify the characters you know, vaguely based on the color. Thanks, Dark Advent. That's really cool. I appreciate that. With Dead Man's Manor. So, what happened was, I love RPGs. They're my favorite genre. And I built an extremely powerful framework so I could make, RPGs quickly using my framework. And the problem is I built it for the 3DS, but there were development issues that meant that I couldn't make a fully working game. I'm trying to be careful with my words here legally. And I was told that the software development kit I was using, oh yeah, it'll be fixed. And if you just wait a little while, it'll get fixed and you can make your game and this and that. And I waited and waited, and the development kit never really got to a usable point where I could actually make, you know, a stable game. And as we've seen with 3 Down Stars, it's actually a huge miracle that 3 Down Stars is as stable as it is, because the development kit I'm using, it was not stable. And I have Dead Man's Manor working on my 3DS development kit, but the problem is, it just, when you go from one area to another, it'll crash. And that's a major issue in a video game, especially like an RPG, where you have to go different places in an RPG. So I had to stop working on Dead Man's Manor, and I trusted, the development team that said, oh yeah, no, we're gonna fix the development. It's going to work. It'll start working. And so I thought, look, I'll set down Dead Man's Manor for a while, and I'll wait until the software development kit is updated and it starts working properly. And that's actually why I started working on 3 Down Stars, because I thought, well, I'll make a game that's not, as heavy in terms of memory usage and whatnot. I'll make a game that's not as heavy as an RPG. And maybe the development kit will be able to handle it if I make a game that's not as big as an RPG. So I started making 3 Down Stars. And unfortunately, I have this sort of philosophy that I don't want to make cheap garbage. So I started making 3 Down Stars with the intention of making a small game so that it would work on the development environment in the game engine. And it got to a point where I thought, this game is good enough to be a bit bigger, so I'll just keep expanding it. And I trusted the development team to fix the game engine. And I'm just trying to be careful about what I'm saying here. And unfortunately, the game engine was never, for the 3DS, the game engine was never brought to a point where I could make Dead Man's Manor, because it's quite a big, heavy game. And if I was using a different game engine, I could have put Dead Man's Manor on the 3DS, which is a major bummer, because it looks insane. What I was able to accomplish with Dead Man's Manor on the 3DS. As a gamer myself, I couldn't believe that I was able to do it. So I'm really bummed out that I can't. But I would like to put Dead Man's Manor on other consoles in the future. But some good news on top of that, the framework that I built for Dead Man's Manor, I'm going to be using that framework for Silver Falls RPG. Do you want to see it? Do you want to see a little bit of the framework? I can open it up right now and you can have a look. Happy boy. So what games are you guys playing right now? Nanashi, are you playing Animal Crossing? Would you recommend it? Yeah. Ah, no. Ooh, that's sinewy in there. All right. Ooh. Look, if you don't look at his, don't look at the face. Oh no, it's making me laugh. Yeah, I'll open up the project because this is the vanilla version of Unity, so I can show you. Uh-oh. I don't know what screen. Don't look at the project names. Don't look. I gotta move this off screen. Ah, yeah, got it. All right, there could have been spoilers in there. Let's see. I will open this. Ah, Ni no Kuni, nice. Is that a new Ni no Kuni, or is it like a port of the first one? I'm a little bit out of the loop in terms of games. Persona Q. Is Persona Q the 3DS game? Just gonna have my sponsored Pepsi real quick. All right, we're opening the framework. If you give me a second. Ah, sorry, my desktop is very boring to look at. Let's go back to this handsome. You know what? Okay, he's not supposed to, but you know what would make this happy boy look even happier is like, oh no! He's oh no! Look at his face. Oh no! All right. Look, that's not what he's supposed to look feline actually. In the actual the. I'll get there. He's supposed to look like a hungry feline. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Nintendo doesn't put their games on sale that often, their first party ones, which is a real bummer. But you know, at least their older titles sometimes go on sale a little bit. I spend all of my money on development, so if I need to buy tools or pay artists to help with things, I spend absolutely all of my money on development. So I actually don't get the opportunity to buy new games very often, which is a real bummer. But you know, at least I like to hear about the new games from other gamers and things like that, because yeah, I mentioned earlier, but before you came into the chat, Nanashi, I'm kind of banned from playing games like Animal Crossing because I would probably never stop. So I try to avoid that. So this is the framework here. Well, this is just a generic scene. Oops. Hold on. There's so many things that are open here. I'll just go to Halt. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to not burp into the microphone. So the this is my character design screen. Let me move my tablet out of the way so I can use my keyboard here. This is my character design screen. I got to get my windows open here. I don't know what's going on. There we go. So this is again my Eventide RPG framework. It's what I built for Deadman's Manor, and I'll be using it for Silver Falls Road Past Guilt, or Silver Falls RPG. Shin Megami Tensei 4. Oh, nice. Shin Megami Tensei 4. How is Persona Q? Is it very different from the other Persona games? because I've never even seen a gameplay for it. I mean, I saw the announcement for it a while back, and I thought it sounded cool, but I was so busy at the time I didn't even get to see a lot of details about it. Yokai Watch. I've heard really good things about Yokai Watch, and again, I've never got the opportunity. There's so many games that I wanted to play, but I was in the middle of development, so I thought, oh yeah, as soon as I wrap this project up, I'll go grab a bunch of games. And Yokai Watch was one game I was really curious to try, but I've never got a chance to try it. So I'm sure there are people all around the world just like me who are crazy about RPGs. They love RPGs. Let me just change the lighting here so it's, you know, more interesting to look at. What do we got? I'll go to my directional light. Turn that up just so it's interesting to look at a little bit. So this character creation. Okay, so you'd recommend Yokai, huh? Hey Nathan, what's up? So we're just sort of looking at the character creation system that I've built for my Eventide framework. Again, this is going to be used for the Silver Falls RPG. We're just getting started here. There's a lot of placeholder information here and whatnot. But what we'll take a look at first is the stats. So with the framework, you can... Where's my core? Is that here? Yeah, we'll look at my core later. Okay. Here we go. So let's say Holt is a playable character. This is all just like placeholder temporary stuff that I was experimenting with. If we look at the stats here, you can, in my core, you can define what the maximum level is. You can make it any number that you want. I stick with 99 in this game. That's just sort of a nice standard to work toward. And you can define the number that your stats start out. So when Holt is at level 1, he has 150 HP. When he's at level 99, he has 7,000. So you can define their starting point and then how their stats look at their maximum. You can also use stat presets, and again, this is stuff that I've put in here to sort of, let's say I'm make a new character, you know, and this character's name is Jimmy Bob. All right, so Jimmy Bob will go to his stats, and we'll go to a stat preset, hero, and replace current stats with preset. So you can see his stats have changed for a preset is what I call it. But let's say he's a glass cannon, right? So let's say, you know, his maximum as a hero, his maximum HP is 4,000, and his power is 120. So if we change it to glass cannon, now his maximum power is 220, but his max HP is lowered. Obviously, you can change these values to whatever you want, but these are just sort of presets that I put in here to make it faster for me to work towards a particular archetype. A wall character has more HP, but has less, you know, all that sort of stuff. That's your base stats. You have equipment options, and I'll show you setting up equipment options in the core and whatnot. I absolutely love the idea of weapon proficiencies in RPGs. So you can determine whether or not the character is able to use certain types of equipment. I like RPGs where characters can use every item or a lot of different items because it gives them options. And I love letting the player customize how their characters work because that's what I like as a gamer. So, for example here, if I say Jimmy Bob can use everything, but he kind of sucks with axes because for some reason it's, you know, there's something in his story where he's not good with axes. That means that if you look at weapon proficiency here, he's only going to do 74% damage with an axe. Or he's not good with guns. So whenever he has a gun equipped, he'll only do 50% damage. But for some reason, he's really good with whips. So, you know, he actually does, you know, an extra 75% damage. So he does 175% damage with the whip. So that lets me control the weapon proficiency there. And with my engine that I designed, you can actually affect
weapon proficiencies with stat growth and skills as well. Persona Q is a dungeon crawler. I love dungeon crawlers. I love, equipping your character and then jumping into a dungeon and sort of grinding out for skill points and good equipment, and then going back to base camp, nursing your wounds, leveling up your guys, and then heading back in. Dungeon crawlers, I love it. What I wish more RPGs did is, outside of the main story mode of the RPG, I would love if RPGs had a dungeon crawler mode where it's more open-ended and then you can just spend as much time as you want customizing your characters and dungeon crawling. I love that stuff. And who's to say Silver Falls RPG won't have a dungeon crawling mode where it's endless and you can, keep recruiting new characters and whatnot. So here, again, you can define, and these are not preset. So these are shield types. You have Gauntlet, Heavy Shield. With my engine, and I'll show you a bit more of it later. You can create any number of shield types. You can create any number of helmet types. And let's say that he doesn't like wearing hair pieces. Let's say he only likes wearing hats, helmets, and collars for some reason. I put collar in there because that is an equipment type for animals. So in Silver Falls RPG, you'll be able to recruit animals. You can have 2 in your party at a time. So you'll have 4 party members. You'll have 2 animals for a total of 6 party members. And then you can go on adventures with your best boys and best girls. There's going to be a lot of different animals that you can recruit, and they all have different skills. Some animals are not well suited to actual fighting, but they have skills that sort of boost your party members. So the animals can be combatants, or they can be very good support types, and that just depends on how you want to play the game. Again, I love giving players options in terms of how they approach a game, and being able to do things a number of different ways. Again, you have different armor types. Maybe this guy doesn't like wearing dresses, and he doesn't like wearing robes. Yeah, I'll start working on that. I'm setting up the project for Deadly Shadows now, so over the next few days, I will start showing more images and even some footage. But it's going to look, this level of quality. I'm sort of working on a standardized base level of quality for each game, and then I can sort of fine-tune and stylize each game in their own way. I have never spent a lot of time playing a Fire Emblem game, which is bizarre because that's the exact kind of game that I really like playing. I really like strategy RPGs. So it's, again, I think by the time I learned about Fire Emblem game, I was doing game design full-time, and yeah, like I said, I don't actually get to play a lot of games because of work. I love elemental alignments. Because of the glitch in Frontier Fighters and 3 Down Stars, you actually don't get to fight the enemies that have elemental alignments, but there are enemies that have elemental types to them, and then you have to start changing your loadout based on the enemies that you're fighting. And so those elements are ice, electricity, and fire. And the RPG expands on that. There's quite a number of different elemental alignments. So you can, for each particular character, you can define their alignment. So if Jimmy Bob uses an ice attack, he does 150% of the damage. And if he gets hit by ice, he only takes 50% of the damage. Beyond the Labyrinth. I'll look that up. If it's a dungeon crawler, that's cool. Okay, and then you have natural immunity to stats. So Jimmy Bob naturally does not have any immunity to any stats, but let's say poison. Let's say 1. That means he's completely impervious to that immunity. The system is also designed in such a way to where if it's higher than 1, he'll actually restore some health if that status ailment is connected to an attack. So if someone tries to do a poison bite, he'll actually absorb some of the damage on there. If this was Daredevil from Marvel Comics, he'd be 1 because he's immune to terror, the man with no fear. And then, here's the fun stuff. You have actions that are learnable by level. So you can change this number. Right now, this means he has 11 different actions that he can learn by leveling up. If it's level 0, it means that they start the game with that ability. So just starting out, he is able to attack, use skills, defend item, and he can rest. Oh, he can encourage. He's got oh, I didn't define the levels on these. Okay, so let's say, you know, level 5, he can start doing a rest. Level 6, he can encourage. You know, level 10, he learns double strike, and so on and so forth. Traits are pretty crazy. I'd have to do a video just on traits, but this stuff is crazy. Traits do insane stuff. I'll randomly pick one. Japanese exclusive. Oh, I have a. That's cool. I have a Japanese 3DS as well. It's not a new 3DS, but I mean, I can get Japanese games on it. But Beyond the Labyrinth. Okay. Shining Force. Man, I love games from, you know, Shining Force and stuff. I love games from that era. Obviously, I grew up in that era, but there's a certain charm to them. There's a sense of like adventure and braveness in those older games, and that developers weren't afraid to just do stuff. So I mean, that's one reason I really still like playing the older games from older generations. So let's say he starts the game with Dusty Armored. A lot of these skills actually come from Deadman's Manor, so I don't even remember what they do. And let's say at level 5 he becomes Arrogant. So let's see what Dusty Armored does. 50% chance to encounter with fatigue. So when he gets hit, there's a 50% chance that he'll counterattack and he'll inflict the enemy with fatigue. See, that's super, super useful. And the other trait we had was Arrogant. And let's see, Arrogant. 15% chance to boost power and magic when hit. That's such a good ability. I'll just briefly go over traits, but traits have a massive effect on your character's behavior and performance. They make characters super, super specialized and unique. So a condition reaction. So this is pretty much what Arrogant does, is there's a 15% chance that he reacts to a standard attack. And let's see, you would... Actually, I didn't finish programming that one. I would say attacking enemy, but there's no K. There's a typo in there. And the action response. So the combat action, I would say Arrogant was the action. So he... Oh, no, that's right. My bad. This was done correctly. I didn't even remember. So on himself, he'll do Arrogant as the combat action, and Arrogant boosts your power and your magic. Let's see where the stats are. Yep, 15%. Oh, it reduces magic. I didn't see that correctly. Boost power, reduce magic by 15%. So there's a 15% chance every time he gets hit, his magic goes down, his attack power goes up. Anyway, yeah, that's you can do crazy stuff with this RPG system. Again, like we're talking about with other RPGs, I love the complex stuff. I love when characters can do crazy, unique things. I love being able to level up and power up characters. So this system is designed, you could spend hundreds of hours and just go crazy with the character customizing. Yeah, Shining Force. Three Houses DLC. Man, everyone is, I've only heard super positive things about Three Houses. I'd like to try it. I keep saying that. One of these days I'll have free time. One day I'll actually get... My backlog of games is so big, but Three Houses is a game I would like to try. So one of the things is a concept that I'm bringing in from Deadman's Manor. Was in Deadman's Manor, every character was randomly generated. Every I think once a day it would rebuild most of the NPCs in the game, and you would have characters that have totally different skills, totally different traits. You can see all of the stats, all of the elemental alignments, all of the weapon proficiencies, all of this stuff that was randomly determined. So every single day you could get brand new characters that were totally different, and it's pretty much impossible for you to get a character that's the same as someone else. another player in the world. So that was going to be the cool thing about Deadman's Manor. With Silver Falls RPG, the characters are the characters of Silver Falls in the town. So there's going to be a number of games leading up to Silver Falls RPG. And so they all have predetermined stuff. But there is going to be a degree of random characterization or character generation. And that is, it's going to be, I haven't finished the details on it yet, but once a day you will be able to recruit a random character. And it's sort of going to be like a visitor to the town that's going hiking and whatnot. And that random character that gets generated is going to have a randomized personality and story, and all of his skills, his traits, his weapon proficiencies, all of that's going to be randomized. And so every day that you play Silver Falls RPG, there's a chance that you can get, a character that absolutely no one else in the world, there's no chance that they're going to have the same character. It's absolutely random. And so that's going to add some variety to the game as well. So you can play as the preset characters who are very specific. They all have their own things. Or you can try and build a team out of total randoms and, play through the whole game with randoms, or do, some dungeon crawling with randoms and stuff. And that's going to make it really fun, I think, because you might end up someone who has like 0 proficiency in everything, but for some reason, their crossbow does 400% damage. So it'll be pretty wild what can happen in terms of the random characters. I'm just going to have a sip of Pepsi. Okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you liked the graphics. No, Deadman's Manor was a standalone thing. Deadman's Manor was always going to be its own thing. And again, I am going to work on that in the future. And it will likely be a Switch game, because a lot of it is done. But again, it was too big for the development kit that I had. Let's see. Yes, yeah, I do have ideas for the 1.4 update. And again, it really depends on how many more sales we get. The more sales we get and the more people we get playing 3 Down Stars, the more time that I can afford to spend on it, which means I'll add even more content. I really wanted to add a new story segment that was probably going to last an hour or two. And that's going to star Arnault, and it's going to have quite a bit more story. It would have brand new areas with more exploration. If we can get more sales on 3 Down Stars, I would still consider that. But right now I have to focus on development for what I hope are going to be Switch titles. I'm waiting to hear back from Nintendo. I need their permission. I need them to grant me the development kit, because I don't have the development kit for Switch yet. So, but I do need to keep working on these, because in the event that they say, yes, you can do development for Switch, I need to have these games ready, so that we can get Silver Falls earning money on the Switch. $2,020 hours is low for Team Fortress? Wow. That's okay. Well, I guess you need to put more hours then to catch up to everyone else, if that's not enough. It's hard to say in terms of when the next update for 3 Down Stars will be out. Hey, Dark Advent, welcome back. We're all just hanging out. I don't know how much you missed, but we went over some of the RPG framework that I was working on. Oh, you know what? I'll show a little bit of the core here, what I call the core for the framework. Let me see here. I'll try to get to the interesting parts anyway. There's so many traits you could have. And look, you can define as many genders as you want. Say, for example, we'll take Pokemon, for example. You have male, female, and genderless. If you made an RPG that was about space aliens, and you were somewhere in outer space or on another planet, aliens may have more genders. They wouldn't have just male and female. So the framework lets you build any number of genders that you want. or you may not even, you can use the functionality of gender, but not even refer to it as gender in the game. You can use it for a totally different mechanic. And the reason why you might want to use it for different mechanics is you can modify all these stats. So if you had a male, let's say a hiker, if you had a male hiker and a female hiker, let's see, the male has 20% more HP, but then the female has 20% more MP. And then the male's power is 20% more, but then the female's speed is 20% more. So you see, that's one way to use genders in this framework. And again, you don't even have to refer to them as genders in the game. You can use it for a different mechanic altogether. And that's just one, minor thing that you could use those for. That, again, like I'm a massive RPG fan. So literally, if I could dream it and imagine it, like in my wildest fever dream, I built this framework to be able to handle as much crazy stuff as I could think of. Combat conditions, again, you put all your combat conditions in there. I'll go over those quickly in a little bit. But I'll just go over to... so here's where you can define equipment types. So I wish Unity had a quick way to close these. It's annoying having to close each one manually. So equipment types, right now those are blank. For some reason I didn't fill them in. But if I wanted another equipment type, let's say I want another equipment type that's, I have banana. There's different types of bananas, and that's the type of weapon that you equip. You can add as many in there as you can imagine until you crash the system somehow, which would take millions of that, I would assume. For shield types, again, I only have gauntlet and heavy shield, but let's say I wanted to add another type in there. You would say add a light shield. So you can have as many different types in there. You can have your sprite that's used in menus, and you would have your description for that as well. So that's all sorts of stuff there. I will go to, you have your elements as well. You can define your elements in there. You can assign a color that you can use for text. You can assign a large sprite, a small sprite and a large sprite. Special items. Oh, your items are in there. Your battle conditions. I'll go over battle conditions really quick then before we go back to whatever. Oh no, character conditions. So character conditions and battle conditions are two different things. Battle conditions are things that happen to the battlefield itself. So say, for example, in Pokemon, you can make it rain, you can make it snow or whatever. That's something that you would create and then put under battle conditions, and you can control what happens. You can have different traits that trigger for battle conditions. All right. Hey, thanks for hanging out, Ezekiel. We'll see you next time. Take care. Have a good day. Thanks. See ya. Be safe. This is not for 3 down stars. This is for Silver Falls RPG that's coming up in the future. So we're just quickly going over the framework to show you how complex and how deep Silver Falls RPG is going to be. I'll hide the gizmos. They're kind of annoying to look at. So say, for example, brave. So if a character gets brave. So status conditions don't always have to be negative. Status conditions can be positive. Let's go ahead and look at brave. That's annoying. So brave increases your power and defense, and you're immune to terror. So that's a pretty useful status effect. So let's have a look here at the effect status. Does it affect your maximum health or mana? And as the description said, it increases your power and defense. So you can see here that's 0.2. That means it adds 20% to your strength and defense. Cool. Let's see what that is. I'm still streaming. Oh. Thank you. This is my sponsor from Pepsi. He comes by and he sponsors and he brings me Pepsi. Everyone please drink Pepsi. Yeah. So let me show you what else battle or character status conditions can do as well. It can affect your weight, your luck, your all that. You can prevent someone from taking action, or you can force a random action. So if you have a move like Confusion from the old RPGs, you can randomly force characters to pick a random move out of their move set and then do that. Restrictions, you can prevent escaping. You can prevent your pets from being called out, your summons, prevent skills from being used. What is a reaction item? Oh, you can affect your elemental alignment as well. So if you're brave, maybe you're so brave that you only receive half of the effect of healing. Oh wait, no. That's for offense. We want defense. So if we went healing, when you're feeling brave, maybe you get only 50% of a healing spell. Like that. The other things that you can do, let's see, condition triggers next condition. You can have it chain link onto another condition as well, so you can trigger another condition. So let's see, reaction, action to respond to. So let's say if you get hit by attack, you can perform attack time. I'm just randomly clicking stuff here. Or you can say respond to any standard action. I'm going to change that back to none. And let's see, targets the enemy group. So let's say whenever you're brave, that means that whenever you're hit by a standard attack, you're going to respond with attack times 4. That would be ridiculous. That'd be OP. But how cool would that ability be? So that means if you gave yourself brave, not only does it boost your defense and strength, but every time you get hit, you counterattack with attack times 4. So you can see the kind of crazy stuff that you can do with the battle system, and you can bet your bottom dollar. I'm addicted to RPG mechanics and crazy stuff. So you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff here. I'm going to make it so you can create, insane characters and insane strategies and do pretty much, anything. Sponsored by Pepsi, everyone. Please drink Pepsi. It's ice cold and refreshing, and it never lets you down, I guess. I'm going to move my microphone again so I don't make a gross drinking sound. All right, Dark Advent. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Take care. We'll see you again next time. If you're familiar with Dragon Ball Z, what sound effect really upset me when I was a kid was the drinking sound when Cell was absorbing people. Ugh, I didn't like that noise. It's too visceral, too upsetting. But I always assumed they took a microphone, they put it up to someone's neck, and then they had someone drink something, and that's how they got the sound effect for Cell. So this lets you react to elements. Database element name, database element color. What is reaction element? I haven't looked at this functionality for a while, so I'm a little bit confused as to this. So I'm going to have to look at my coding again and see what this one does. Oh, this reference is incorrect. Oh, no, I don't remember what that does. This system's so complex, I don't even remember everything that I built into it, because you can do such crazy stuff. Yeah, right? Like, I know that there's a lot of people like me who love RPGs, and sometimes I sit here and I look at the stuff that I can do with my framework, and I think, oh man, I could make the coolest stuff, And I feel like a kid in a candy shop, which I am in a sense, because I have this framework that I built for RPGs. Oh, look at this! So this status condition lets you affect how characters, again, are affected by conditions. So, let's see. If you're brave, so I would say this. If you're brave, you have a 0% chance of... Wait. Which means you have a... Was it? Is that 1, 2, -2, 1? I think if it's that, you have no chance of being inflicted with terror. Category. Oh, whoa! I forgot I put this in here. This is so cool. Okay, this is funny. I don't even remember because I did an insane amount of work in a small amount of time. This is a modifier for your skill or magic category. So let's say if you're brave, that means that all of your skills, you can make all of your skills do double damage. Or they could do an extra 20% damage, your skills. Or if you have beast skills, maybe you could enter a brave state where, they do 50% extra damage. Your status conditions can do extra damage. There's so much stuff in here. I totally forgot. But let's say that, you're brave and it boosts your stats a crazy amount, but now you can't use your beast skills. Or now you can't use status conditions. So that's just more ways to customize what your conditions can do. You can do such crazy stuff. You can do multi-hits, a little bit like how in Pokemon you have multiple hits, but then each successive hit has a lower chance of hitting. You can do that. There's all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, anyway, there's a lot of stuff you can do with it, is the point. So, yeah, anyway, this is the guy. He wasn't he wasn't supposed to turn out so kawaii. He's far too adorable for his own good. So I'm going to take a break from the stream, so I'll be ending the stream in a minute. So at some point today, I'm going to have to figure out how to make this guy not look adorable. But as it stands, oh boy, I like this guy. He's adorable. Thanks a lot for hanging out. That was a lot of fun. We'll do another stream again at some point. We can have more fun chatting about games, and then I'll work a bit more on modeling. Next time I'll probably start rigging this guy up if I can have the model finished. So yeah, thanks a lot for hanging out. I hope you guys had a lot of fun, and hope you enjoyed sort of watching what's going on behind the scenes and the sort of games we're making. And this guy, I don't even have a name for this guy, but right now he's Happy Boy. The next time you see him, though, I apologize, but he's not going to be an adorable Happy Boy. The next time you see him, he's going to be closer to his final version of what he's supposed to be. And again, this monster is going to be for the Android game. And again, the Android game takes place the night before 3 Down Stars. There's a chance that in a future update for 3 Down Stars, maybe update 1.4, I might be adding this character or this monster enemy into 3 Down Stars, and I might be adding more Frontier Fighter missions that include this enemy. That's a maybe. We'll see. What was my main inspiration for Silver Falls 3 Down Stars? So my main inspiration, absolutely ever since I was a kid, I loved Resident Evil and I loved Silent Hill. What I loved about those games was that I got to play it with my siblings, and to me that is just the coolest thing in the world. When we had family parties, we often brought out Resident Evil. So with my cousins, my nieces and nephews, we all sat down. We were just sitting together and we were sharing the horror of, the dogs jumping through the windows, the zombies and stuff. And so I absolutely love that you can share that sort of fun and excitement with other people. So my inspiration for 3 Down Stars was to make a game that people can enjoy together, that they can talk about and discuss, and it would have a story where people can interpret different things their own way, and they can say to people, "Oh no, I think this part of the story means this," and other people can say, "Oh, I think this part of the story means this," and they can discuss what they think certain characters mean, what they think certain enemies mean, and I would hope that people could enjoy Silver Falls the same way that I enjoyed Silent Hill and Resident Evil as I was growing up, where I got to share that with my family. And Silent Hill and Resident Evil are huge inspirations to me, but I wanted to create a game that came from my own life experiences, that could be meaningful in some way in terms of the character stories of Silver Falls. I want those to be meaningful. I don't want it to be something like, oh, I'm such a strong secret agent strongman, and I'm going to shoot all these guns, and that's my story. There's plenty of games that are out there that are like that, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those stories, because it's a sense of empowerment and escapism that's so important, especially in the world that we live in right now, where people feel like they're losing control of over their lives. You need a sense of empowerment, and you can get that from video games. But the story that I wanted to write, I wanted to focus on human stories, so that the player gets to see how these characters deal with different issues and struggles in their life. And I was hoping maybe when players see these characters deal with these issues, and people can relate to those characters and say, oh man, I kind of know how this character feels, or oh, I've got a friend who's dealing with sort of a similar issue with their family. I'm hoping that when they play through Silver Falls and they see the characters resolve it, it gives people a sense of empowerment and hope in that, okay, well, if this character can get through some sort of thing with their life, well, then I can do it too. I should be able to get through this difficult part in my life because this character did. And it seems kind of believable that these characters deal with issues in their lives certain ways. So that was my inspiration for Silver Falls. And I wanted to create an interesting environment that wasn't a zombie outbreak. Because for a while I went through a zombie stage. I was massively into zombies. Obviously Resident Evil, Shaun of the Dead and stuff. So I wanted to create a game that was so different from that, and I wanted to create a world that just wasn't a Silent Hill ripoff. And I love Silent Hill. I'm the biggest Silent Hill fan, but I wanted to create something that was welcoming to players in terms of the location. And so I designed Silver Falls in a way that feels like it's an interesting town that you could go to, and maybe take a vacation from your life and go to Silver Falls for a while, and it would be fun to spend time there and hang out with the people there. So that was my idea for Silver Falls anyway. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys, all your support and your compliments and everything like that. Okay. Let's see. Has different light from running an editor is much brighter. Yes, if you're talking about the light mapping in the editor, actually we're not allowed to discuss things because of the Nintendo NDA. Liu, but if you want to send me I'm on the Nintendo support forums, and if you want to send me a message on Twitter or YouTube, if you send me your username, I'll send you my username on the Nintendo support forums, because we're not allowed to discuss details outside of the Nintendo support forums. But I do understand the issue that you're having with the development in terms of the lighting, and I do know the answer for that. So I'm happy to help you with that. But go ahead and send me a private message with your username, and we can discuss it on the Nintendo support forums. Because I did create a topic on the Nintendo support forums. My name there is probably Jerrel D or Jerrel Dulé. Actually, you can probably find my topic on the support forums, and it's. I did discuss that with the support there, and I did sort of explain my answer to that. So yeah, I can help with that. But the answer is on the forums if you look for Jerrel or Jerrel D. Who is the mechanic? Maybe. Who is the mechanic? There are clues sprinkled throughout Three Down Stars. There are some clues. I'm not going to say that you'll find an absolute answer, but there are clues in Three Down Stars. There's going to be more clues in upcoming games. So I hope you enjoy the upcoming games as well. There are answers to things in Silver Falls, but again, I didn't want to make it boring by having an instant payoff and just shoving the answer in your face. But there isn't. You won't get the absolute answer in Three Down Stars, but there are clues as to who the mechanic actually is. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you. I'll close the live stream now. But hey, we'll live stream again tomorrow. We can hang out some more. We'll work on the game. I might be rigging this guy up tomorrow. So yeah, everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll hang out again soon. So thanks so much for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye, everyone.